Hello and welcome to the Reality Podcast, the number one podcast in Ireland, according to me and my host Usman. I'm your host Abdul, and I'm here with my host Usman. So how are you? How are you, Usman?
Well, I've been expecting something very interesting this week.
Well, I guess.
I mean, you're the one that has it, and you say you have something interesting. So I think that explains the whole change in color and the appearance of the screen, even though it's just our icons. But it looks new, looks interesting. So I'm looking forward to see what you have for us.
Yeah, bro. I've got a lot. It's just again. I've watched many of his YouTube videos, and I'm a huge fan. So I'm really grateful he decided to join our podcast, even after last week's fiasco of a podcast where most of the things weren't even working.
I mean
Technically,
that
and we had
that that episode that episode's still iconic.
bro. It's like it just didn't work, bro. It was like everything we tried to do, man, was just not working properly.
To me, it just seemed like everything that went wrong with it just made it right.
Yeah, and it didn't do the best. It got like what's called like 18 or 17 or 18 views, but for that, I think it's all right, man.
I think the last time I checked, it had like 27.
27 views. Oh, really? That's nice. That's not bad, considering it's just about technical difficulties, man. And like we didn't even start talking. We were like just blabbering for like 20 minutes before we even got into the nitty gritty things, details.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the episode was a write off, but it still counts in the books because we
Right
just
off
talked about
tax,
random stuff at the end of it. At
right,
the end of it,
like a tax write off. Anyway, should we introduce our guest?
I'll give you the stage.
Let's go. And here's our guest today, FullMetalTheist.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, brother. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you guys?
Alhamdulillah.
We're doing
I just want to say, I said it before, but I just want to say thank you for coming on to our podcast, bro.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
I know, bro. My pleasure. So, Full Metal, what's it called again? You have your own YouTube channel, yeah? So, like, what do you do on your channel? So, like, what's your main goal?
All right. So I go by the name of FullMetalTheist. My real name is Amin. I'm just a Muslim guy from Italy. What am I really? I can tell I get dubbed as a Muslim apologist. That's what David Wood and people call me when they respond to my kind of stuff. I think it's kind of accurate. Yeah. An apologist is usually someone who was involved in the process of doing apologetics, which is, from a philosophical perspective, the act of defending an ideology which you believe to be true. Now, the thing is that I didn't start my YouTube channel just to do apologetics. I started it to do polemics on Christian theology because I truly like it, and I believe back in the days I had some interesting arguments to share with people. Now there has been some development, and I'm learning and improving myself. So what I do with my channel, apologetics and polemics, I I don't know, react and analyze arguments against Islam, and at the same time I present arguments against other faiths and why I believe them to be not the best representation of reality as we know it.
Yeah. So, and for like a layman's point of view, basically, you kind of like refute other people's arguments about Islam, don't you?
Well,
So,
yeah,
like,
I cannot refute other people. I don't really like the term refutation, to be honest, because I believe that nowadays it's cruel to have such a bad connotation. I prefer saying clarify misconception, although they're basically the same things. I'm just playing with the words.
one just like one clarify sounds way smarter and way better, to be honest.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, what's it called again? Like you said, you don't like being called refutation. I think because like refutation, yeah, especially nowadays, especially if you're on Twitter or something like that, what's it called again has like extra baggage with it. Because what's it called again, for example, most people focus on the refutation part rather than what's it called again, then after rather than seeking knowledge on the topic. For example, like for example, apostate prophet might make a video on what's it called again, why Islam is false, yeah, and then a person might just watch a refutation video why Islam is false, and refuted, and he just watches that video. And it's like, oh, that's it, and then he just doesn't go seek more knowledge, and that's one of the main issues that is happening nowadays. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're dead right and dead on point. And that is why I was saying earlier that I don't really like this term. I'm mainly active on Twitter, Discord, and YouTube. Okay, although I just if you follow me and follow my work and my tweets and all that, I mainly do apologetics and polemics on YouTube videos, and I keep it short and straight to the point. And I seldom and rarely get involved into discussions with other people on Discord and Twitter. The reason behind that, first of all, I don't believe these two platforms to be the best for carrying out such discussions. And the second reason I have for disliking these kind of happenings is, as you said, it's people become extremely entangled within it. They're not interested anymore in having a dialogue, learning something new from their intellectual opponents. They're just into winning the argument. You know, from a philosophical perspective, there's something called dialectics. Dialectics is all about ideally reaching the truth by having a talk, by having a discussion, a dialogue, right? You give me a thesis, I come up with an antithesis, and we have a back and forth till we reach a better understanding of what we're talking about. Now, opposed to dialectics, there's something called heuristics, and it's all about winning the argument. And this is pretty much most of
Sorry,
what I
what's
see
it
when it
called?
comes
What's
to,
it called?
especially
Heuristics?
Muslim teenagers. Yeah,
Sorry, what
heuristics.
did you call it? Heuristics.
ERI?
E-
Yeah,
Heuristics.
heuristics.
Never heard that word
It
before.
should be
First time.
ERISTICS, heuristics. Um, Nonetheless, I was saying this is exactly what I witness around, especially on Twitter. Yeah, you see your average Muslim teenager be like, "Oh, you got trashed, you got owned,
Correct.
you got this, you got racked." All those words, you know, and it's not about that. It's not about that. It's just growing, you know. Just learn. And by the way, I'm sorry. Am I talking too much? Just let me know if I'm starting.
Oh no,
If I.
no, it's no problem, bro. It's no problem.
All right.
I'm just learning by everything you say. Every time you say
You
something, I'll be
know.
like, "What does that mean?" Something like that.
Thank you. Very kind of you. Very. And don't worry. You can interrupt me anytime you want. But one thing I wanted to say is that you can see practical problems with this kind of approach, and that is of having bad etiquettes when it comes to actual argumentation with people. You know, the best way to do argumentation, I believe, is to start with the moment of Socratic method. You know, Socrates, he was a Greek philosopher, and he's got this very nice method. Like he would ask you questions. He would tell you, why do you believe this, and for what reasons, and why is that, for what is that thing? And this is called Socratic method. You know, you just ask questions. But these kind of people, they just get into an argument and they assume everything about you. And keep in mind, I'm talking about Muslim teenagers right now. I'm not just talking about atheists or it's just bad etiquettes on a general wide level, no matter what's your background. Okay. And they just
Yeah.
assume things about you. Okay. And that's wrong. I don't believe people should
And
do that.
and at the end, like what's called, and like they don't achieve anything mostly. Like sometimes they even achieve, for example, like when it comes to reputations, like especially if they do it like in a manner that isn't great, they just lead to people leaving Islam or something like that. But sometimes we need to practice, like sometimes mannerism is great. Because I remember I think it was Ali Dawah says the best way to do da'wah is via your manners, not via your actions, sorry. Like that, yeah. And if you have like bad manners, like people be like, oh, like the media is right, this is the way they portray Islam. That's how Muslims are in general.
I wouldn't generalize. Generalizing is usually bad, but I would say that even uh, beyond Islam, I think it's something that doesn't really have ideological boundaries, and I think it's just a guess, but it could be that this could be the consequence of not being very knowledgeable about certain topics and you get into them nonetheless. Like you start talking about something with an intellectual opponent, and you're not knowledgeable enough, and then you start getting like heated, frustrated, okay, because you don't really have the right answer.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I remember last night I was doing studying psychology, and like in anxiety defense mechanism, there's one what's called again. It's called regression, and it's return to a more immature level of functioning. And you see that when someone's having an argument and they start losing, they just act childish or something. They start acting childish,
Well,
which
that's a very interesting connotation. Yeah, I think it would confirm my guess, I suppose.
yeah, it's just like I think like for example, yeah, the court like the thing is like before you get into debate or like what's it called again, like have discussions with people, you should know what you're talking about and like have basic knowledge. Because like either one, you're gonna get found out, or number two, someone's gonna ask you a question that you don't know, and then that might lead to doubts or something like that. For example, like I remember I was having this discussion with my friend about what's called again atheism versus Islam, and this is what like I say like start of 2020. So like, and he asked me a question. He's like, "What does Islam says about evolution?" And I had no answer for that. Like I was just there, like I don't know. I didn't like technically the guy won the argument, and I was just still that like saying I don't know what I don't actually like I don't know my religion properly. Like I think I know, but I don't know. And like from that on, like during that time, I was just usually watching just like debates on what's called again on what's that place in England, UK, Highbury Park. That you see mostly like Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawar. What's it called again? You know.
It's Hyde
Speaker's
Park.
Corner, Speaker's Corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just watching Speaker's Corner and just seeing. I was just getting like people getting wrecked and like what's called again a dopamine rush just comes in because you like seeing that guy won. But then what's called again you see from the other spectrum, yeah. Then you'll be seeing lots. If you go onto the other people's channel like David Wood or Hatem Tash, yeah, they'll be posting videos where they see a Muslim gets wrecked and like Christian won, and then I'll be like, wait, why is this Muslim getting wrecked? Why isn't he winning the argument? If Islam is true, then he should have won the argument. And then I was like, I shouldn't. Then I was like, and then after that debate happened, I was like, I shouldn't be focusing on what's called winning the argument or winning the debate. I should focus more on gaining knowledge about Islam in order to actually defend it
Yeah,
properly.
that is
Because like
absolutely true.
Because
That's
like
absolutely true.
defending Islam without knowledge is like going into a battle without a sword and shield. Like you're gonna lose.
Yeah, I could comment on that. That the ideology, the truth value of a certain ideology. When I say truth value, it means whether an ideology is true or false. Okay, so the truth value of a certain ideology does not depend on how good someone is at defending that ideology, because it could be someone who's got zero knowledge about it and he's not good at defending it when certain questions are raised against it. And let's say that you're very good, all right, that you do have the knowledge and still fail to defend that ideology. I would say that yes, some arguments could be very good against your ideology, but it's still not conclusive. Okay, there's like an immense amount of work usually done behind ideologies. It would be good to take your time to assess them. Don't make the rash judgments, and so forth. But there's a funny story that is coming to my mind right now about this, and I can tell you that, and you guys tell me what you think, just your opinions.
Okay, go on.
As a
Yeah,
Dawa guy, we have groups on WhatsApp. Like Speaker's Corner,
yeah,
for example. We have a group for that, and there is every Dawa guy you can think of, all in one group, which is kind of cool because you have an exchange of usually opinions and news and so on and so forth. Um, this one time, I'm not gonna mention the name, but this Dawa friend, he's kind of a, let's say, big guy when it comes to Christian Dawa, and he sent like um, this message where there was like this brother, this I believe a Muslim teenager, and he was like, "Hey, bro, can you refute this video?" And this brother in the Dawa, he was like, "Yeah, sure. What problem do you have with this video?" And that other guy was like, "No, I didn't watch it, but I think if I'm gonna watch it, it's gonna give me doubts, and that just made me laugh. I mean, it made laugh everyone else in the group. Like you didn't even watch the video, and you already think like you're gonna be having doubts. This is exactly now how it is supposed to happen. This is baseless, no methodology whatsoever.
Yeah, I think when it comes to refutation, like not all videos have to be refuted because like some videos, like when you watch them, you just know the argument is like baseless or something like that, and they're just doing it in a mocking manner to what's called again, just to get a reaction. For example, I remember one time, David Wood, yeah, made a video. It's called 10 Disgusting Things About Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he told Farid to respond to it. I didn't want Farid respond to what's it called again. David was like, it's a trap or something like that. It's like what's it called. He didn't want, like, he didn't expect Farid to respond to it. He just wanted people to what's it called again, to watch the video in order to sow doubts or something like that. And sometimes that could be a problem because like some videos are baseless. Like they're just dumb. Like even the video what's it called again. With David Wood, there was one argument that he said where Prophet Muhammad kissed the boy, and it turns out it was his grandson. And I'm like, I'm confused. Like even in this day and age, like it's normal for like a grandfather to kiss his what's called again, his grandson on the cheeks, something like that, and he's just making it out of a big issue, big issue, making a big sorry, sorry, making like mountains out of molehills or something like that, which I find like completely disingenuous on his part.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with you. It is kind of intuitive to believe that some arguments, some videos, some ideas should not be entertained. When it comes to actually the narrative of freedom of speech, there's a whole section like you can dedicate a whole discussion just to the so-called no platform argument, where you're censoring someone for the sake of not giving them a platform. But I don't want to get into freedom of speech and so on. But I agree with you. I agree with you to a certain extent. And as a side note, yes, the prophet kissing his grandson is in certain cultures it's extremely normal, and for you to go there and be like this is a sexual thing, all you're doing is committing a fallacy based on your perception of the motives behind such a kiss. That case was done in public in that society, and if nobody reacted in a disgusted way, nobody was like, oh my god, what is going on here, it means that it was a normal thing for that society to behave in such a way among their families, and that not necessarily there were like sexual motives behind such an act.
Yeah, and like what I'll say, like then you can say what's called again, like his mind is corrupted when he thinks just a person kissing his grandson or something like that, and he is sexual or something like that. Just see these people, man. They have like weird interpretation minds, and I wonder, do they actually do this on purpose, or like are they just doing this and they like sometimes they just think what they're doing is right, or like do they actually believe what they're doing is right? For example, for example, like apostate prophet. Like I know what like I can tell through. You can look through his eyes. He knows what he's doing is wrong, yeah, but he's doing it just for his own desires and just to make quick buck because he is getting a lot of money. Like I remember there's this scandal. He had like a GoFundMe for 10 grand, and then what's it called again? When he got 10 grand, he just changed it to 20 grand, and then people were calling him out on that, which is weird.
It's very funny that you mentioned if they do it on purpose or not. In my last video, the last video I made was on the apostate prophet and his reasons for being an atheist, which I believe are totally garbage reasons from a philosophical perspective. It's garbage, and I don't speak like this just about anybody, but I'm honestly thinking that it's all garbage, and you can go check it out. I gave plenty of reasons why. Is that so? At some point, he's
Oh, I
like,
did. I did watch it.
at some
Well,
point,
I
he's
got
like,
notifications on for all these.
people, like I appreciate that, by the way, thank you. But at some
Yeah,
point,
no
he's like,
problem.
people go to hell and are punished by God because basically he was implying that because they're born into certain places and
Different
taught certain
in different
ideologies
countries.
that
Yeah.
happen to be
No,
random.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, remember, he said it's like this. It was like this. It says your religion depends on where you're born, Like, for example, a person born in America is more likely going to be Catholic than a person born in what's called, let's say, North Africa or West Africa or what's called in the Middle East. I like, for me, yeah, I'm not like smart, I'm not the smartest person ever, yeah. But I know there's sometimes says, if you Allah only judges you, yeah. If you're not if you've never heard of Islam, what's it called, based on your actions, something like that. And like, for example, if you die a kafir and you've never heard about Islam, like he's not going to judge you. He's going to judge you justly. That's why he's most just.
Yeah, absolutely. That was such an incredibly reductionistic, unreal approach to what actually the situation is. God is just by his very same definition. He does not punish people for the simple fact that they are raised randomly into certain ideologies that happen to be false. It very much depends on how much exposed they have been to Islam. And Imam Ghazali is even of the opinion of how much properly exposed they have been to the message of Islam, if they were given the message through the appropriate means and so on. And I had a friend there. His name is Arfan Al Farisi. He's got a YouTube channel. You can check it out, all about atheism. And he explained this stuff from the Quran and the Hadith. Now, this is something extremely basic, like super basic. So my thought is exactly on line with what you were saying earlier. If it's such a basic information and you know like about this and still you're keeping it for yourself and pushing an argument that is flawed, then you're just deceiving people because you're not telling them the full story. It's like if I come to you and I tell you Santa does exist, but I know that he doesn't exist. And it's such a basic information, that Santa Claus is a human invention. And I tell you he does exist. So I'm deceiving you. But if I don't know that Santa doesn't exist, then I'm just ignorant. I'm a fool. The same applies here to the apostate prophet because he's pushing very basic arguments. If he does know that they're basic and he knows their answers, the answers to these arguments, since he says he's an ex-Muslim, he should know this basic stuff. If he knows it, he's deceiving you. He's telling you not the full story. If he doesn't know it, then he's ignorant. He knows nothing about Islam. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, have anything to say, Usman? You've been awfully quiet. Usman?
I was just letting you have the stage.
It's all right, man. Just if you have any questions, just ask, bro. It's open flow. It's open. I don't know what to say, bro. It's open questions or something like that.
It's an open discussion. I get it.
Yeah,
I just
yeah. Open discussion.
the only reason I let you talk because I know you're more aware of the whole bubble, and now I'm not. So that's why I was just letting you talk for the whole 20 minutes.
Oh yeah. Speaking about that, when you said whole bubble thing is, I never knew about these guys like Apostle Prophet, what's it called again, David Wood, Zara K, till I joined Twitter. More specifically, till I joined Muslim Twitter. And now we're going to have a discussion here. Do you think Twitter does more harm than good in the Islamic realm? Because what's called again, like, thank God, yeah, when I found Muslim Twitter, yeah, I found like proper people who actually who are what's called again, know about their deen, yeah, and they're not trying to stray me to the what's called again, bad path, yeah. But like some other people can be unfortunate, yeah, and like mix around with the wrong crew who either lead them to being apostate or then leading down to the ISIS route, which inshallah, may Allah protect and guide them and protect us all from that route. So like, what's your thoughts on Twitter in general?
I assume you're talking about Muslim Twitter, right?
Yeah, what's the Twitter? Yeah.
Okay. Before I respond to that, thank you, Osman. That's very, very thoughtful of you. Very kind. Thank you, man. I believe you're sitting there and you're like, these guys, they know the topic more than me. Let them talk. But truly, anybody, I'm the guest, but I believe anybody's free to join. I checked your channel today. I believe you have more expertise in dealing with lives than we do. But anyway, that said, my opinion on Muslim Twitter. I believe that we have mute options, block options. You can filter a lot if you don't like certain people. I also believe that I see it often, like institutes and courses on Islam being advertised. I like that. It's a positive thing that you get offered to get an education. Let's say it like that. And I also see that some people are promoting social funds campaigns, stuff to help other people, which is good as well because you can reach a big audience. I also see sometimes drama, um,
Unfortunately.
but I would say there's a positive side to that as well because you're kind of witnessing the trend. You see what is catching people's attention. You see what people are dealing with. For example, uh, how much was that? 4 months ago, everyone was talking about the president of France and freedom of speech and all that. And just by
Mhm.
looking at these kind of trends, you can kind of educate yourself on contemporary issues. Let's say it like that. But then, yes, there's bad aspects. There's people always backbiting, not backbiting. I apologize. Arguing over certain threads. People, a lot of drama, and it's annoying sometimes. Like you see refutations all over the place. It doesn't have to be like that all the time.
Yeah,
So
and with the reputations, yeah, I think like sometimes, especially when it's publicly, like sometimes I agree, like if a brother made a mistake, yeah, what's called again, and especially like if he's like bang on and like saying, okay, this is right, this is right, this is right, like then you can publicly refute them, yeah. But like for example, when a person makes a mistake, yeah, like and like for example, like it's not like he's trying to get people away from the deen. He just made like an honest mistake, yeah. People will just be hammering instead of like just advising them in DMs or something like that.
yeah,
Or like
true.
then when people are called Khawarij or like ISIS just because they have different opinions. Like I remember there was this guy, yeah, he's a YouTuber, and he was like saying like even if you utter a word against the leader of what's called again, if he's a Muslim leader and tyrant, you become a Khawarij, and like people were just what's called again, people were upset over that because like rightly so because I never heard of that word like saying just because you utter a word against a Muslim leader who's a tyrant, you become a Khawarij. And you know, like how the blood of the Khawarij is what's called again is it's allowed it's permissible to spill it or something like that. Well, probably I'm wrong.
Well, that's more getting into Aqidah perspective, Salafi understandings versus non-Salafi understandings. Let's put it like that. But yes, people tend to kind of get heated up in these sort of situations. People tend to not advise in private. I've seen that a lot of times. But to be honest, I don't know with what I can contrast this because I don't have data on how many times and how often people do advise in private. So maybe there's tons of people advising in private, and I don't really know. So
Oh, me,
um,
I'm not saying like everyone does it. I'm just saying sometimes you see it, and then what's called again, like you do get sometimes you do see it. I'm just like,
yeah,
why we shouldn't be doing these things because like like because then the other like the media, the ex-Muslim group, those called again the Islamophobes, they'll be using this again as a what's called again as a tool against us. And like we all make mistakes, sometimes you might refute someone in public. Like I've done that once. I refuted this guy publicly once by mistake, and I apologized to him, and he was saying it was okay, and I did it in my tweet. Like people do make mistakes. But like sometimes it just goes overboard, and you'd be like, "Why?
yeah,
What was the reason?" But like,
yeah.
I do think Muslim Twitter like it does more good than harm. But like, it's just like a few bad eggs, and like you're always going to find a few bad eggs everywhere you go.
Definitely, yeah. I agree with you. And I would agree with you on the private advice is yeah, I believe that is the Islamic way of doing things. You should approach people privately and talk to them. Because on the public sphere there is more of a pride kind of aspect. You don't want
Like,
to
yeah,
lose the
because like,
argument. Let's bash
yeah,
this
like,
guy. So
like
that's
you were going
ugly.
into the thing what's it called and Aristus, yeah, when it's like trying to win the argument.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like that. So you learn some things on this podcast sometimes.
Uh,
Yeah,
it's
but
it's
what's
nice
called
to
again?
have a talk. it's nice to have a talk.
Yeah. And sometimes like you don't have to argue. Sometimes you can just sit down, have a talk, like, and be civil. It's like it's only when
Absolutely.
insults are like thrown in that's the problem. And the thing is, like for example, I was watching. I think I haven't. I watched it like last month or something. I was rewatching the Daniel Hikeju versus what's it called again versus Apostate Prophet. And I took down some of the points. Like for example, like he said, he justified slavery, right? He said slavery was necessary, and then he goes and then he makes a video, and then he made but in the past he's made videos saying what's called slavery is bad, and that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam what's called was bad for owning slaves, even though like during the time like what's called it wasn't seen as immoral. Then then we go into the subject of morality, which is either subjected or objected, or the third one, which we'll never find out.
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know. I just believe him to be kind of overrated, the opponent. But I think that this kind of got demonstrated more than enough. He's got a fair amount of debates that he lost. He did poorly pretty much on all these kind of debates. But like to just add a comment on how good it is to talk privately with people. Like I can tell you for sure that the best kind of discussions I had with others, they were all private, one-on-one, on call. Okay, I had discussions with Yusuf Pondering Soul. I'm sure you know him. On call
Yeah,
about we were not like arguing or something. We were just sharing ideas, but the discussion was so intense that it would go on for hours. I had discussions with Hindus, with some Hindu guys, and they were great. I talked to a Hindu guy for like 3 hours this one time because I'm still studying and looking into Hinduism, and I know that I have to approach this guy with at least some respect because he's kind of teaching me. I'm asking him question about his beliefs, and he's being polite about it. So I disagreed with him, and I told him why I disagreed with him. But this is like just etiquettes. I don't want to come off as arrogant or something here, but the advice I would give is just go easy on people, just to talk to them, ask them questions about what they really believe. Don't assume stuff about people, and then disagree with them and tell them why you disagree with them just in a respectful way. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to be fruitful, even if you don't know stuff, just say, I don't know, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to search
yeah.
for it. It's no problem.
And the thing is, like when it's private, it's more civil because like the pride isn't on the line. Because for example, like it's only between you and him. Like for example, even you had a debate, like hypothetically, you had a debate and lost. The only person who's going to know is between you and him. But while it's on open, like everyone can see it, and you're like you're just going to ruin your reputation or something like that.
Yeah, there's that kind of aspect to it. Yeah, I agree with you. So
Unfortunately, but
if you want to go on a public debate like something big where the aim is winning the argument and you know that you're there because you want to prove someone wrong, then you better be knowledgeable about stuff. You better know what you're talking about. You better be prepared because you want to know every single outcome of that debate and the questions within that debate. You want to win it. If you're there to win it, then leave no chance for the opponent to win it. That's how it is
yeah,
done. There is no hate in such a thing. You just go there and you do a clean job.
and just get the job done and dip.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah,
but like in discussions, you want to like know the other person's like opinion or point of view, or see from his or her point of
exactly,
view.
exactly. And
But if you,
even in a debate where you know that your aim, your goal is to win that debate, I would still suggest that at the beginning you just have like 10 minutes of back and forth with questions, like because otherwise you're gonna assume a lot. And the moment you start assuming, you will receive answers like, but I don't believe that. When did I say that? I didn't say that.
yeah,
That's not my thing. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm a Catholic, but I don't really believe that. No, I'm a Christian, but I don't believe in that doctrine. So you gotta
yeah,
ask questions.
yeah. Anyway, anyway, that's enough for what's Coggin refutation from now. Like the last portion is what's Coggin is how to gain knowledge. So like, what would be your biggest, what would be your advice to people who come up to you and says, "I have a question. I want to know how to gain knowledge. Where should I go?" Because like the thing is, what's Coggin, like I probably said, like gaining knowledge, you could say it's like kind of like drinking water. Yeah, for example, like when you're thirsty, you have to drink enough water in order to quench that thirst. That's the same for knowledge. You have to gain enough knowledge in order to quench that thirst. And like if you drink poisonous water, you're gonna get sick. And the same thing is, what's gonna get you get knowledge from people who are lying. Like for example, Mufti Abu Layth or Imam Tawhidi, which I don't know why he's called Imam Tawhidi. Like he's really something's wrong with that guy. You're gonna get doubts, and it's gonna lead you down the wrong path. So like, what would be your answer to that question?
That's a very interesting analogy that you presented with water. Good one. I would
Well, I
say,
had that
okay.
analogy. I said it to. I was sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry,
No,
but
it's
I said
okay.
it to. I was in the DMs, yeah, with Abdullah Samir, and I said that to him. I said that same analogy to him, yeah, and he never replied. He just left me a red.
Oh, I don't
Poor
know
guy.
why he wouldn't answer such a question. But where do you get knowledge? I would, of course, say get it from reliable people, but then you presented a very good follow-up question, like how do you know who are the reliable people? Now, from the top of my head, what I can think of is probably Falash's argument, like from ad populum. Ad populum means follow the masses. But what I'm saying is that if you see the majority of people like not following a certain individual, then I believe that should ring a bell in your head and inquire about why they're not following you. So what I'm saying here is that if you're a Muslim, follow a consensus, ijma of scholars, follow mainstream Islam, follow what everybody or most of the people are upon, and start from that. Okay, and if you think that there's someone who's not being treated like fairly, let's say Mufti Abu Layth, let's say that you're a big fan and you have doubts why people don't follow Mufti Abu Layth, then I would suggest just look into it. I mean, just see what people say about Mufti Abu Layth. Just look at the other side, see the arguments against him, see why he's not a reliable individual. As to how to get knowledge, I would say read books. As I was telling you in private, read books about reasoning, about logic. They're going to help you become a critical thinker. You would learn how to be argumentative, not in a negative sense, but how to differentiate between premises and a conclusion. If it's a valid inference, like is what you're saying following up, like is it reasonable, is it logical, is it valid, and so on. These are all things that logic allow you to do. Um, I would say I would say study religion from the roots. You want to be orthodox when it comes to religion because it's something that comes down if you believe in revelation only once. You want to be as accurate as possible, so always go back to orthodoxy. And by that I mean just follow the great works of scholars that do
Came before us.
present heavy evidence, all from the first generations of Muslims. I would say that. I mean, if they present you with evidence like that, then it's good.
Well, what's called again? Then there's an argument. Then let me like what's called again be like a devil's advocate. I was shit on regime, but what's called again?
No, it's okay.
For example, when like a huge what's called again like a huge scholar like for example like comes up and says something that's wrong, yeah. And then what's called again? Then like a small person refutes them. Like some people be like, oh, but who are you going to take? Are you going to take the person who refutes them, or are you going to go agree with the scholar because like he has more knowledge? But like as you said, scholars can what's called again, can make mistakes. They're like what's called again, they're not perfect. But like in those cases, what would you say? And like the guy who refutes them brings what's called again, his knowledge, brings his reasons and knowledge as well. For example, like the biggest one I could say from the top of my head, when Dr. Zakir Naik made a video on what's called again, on the topic of masturbation because it's what's called it's something that's really that's causing harm to our youths these days. And what's called, he made it. What he said it was permissible. If I can remember, I remember Free Response made a response to it. I haven't watched it, but I think from what I've seen, well, I heard probably is a refutation about it. So like in those cases, what would you say? What would you say to a person what to do?
If the question is who would you follow, a great scholar or someone small, I would say that's a logical fallacy. It's called appeal to authority. And just for the sake of preference, a logical fallacy is a mistake in your reasoning that makes what you're saying wrong by default, false by default. An appeal to authority is to say that a certain position is true just because someone big, a scholar or a scientist, speaks it. It's like an example could be that atheism is true because Richard Dawkins, a very big biologist, says that it's true, when in reality it is not. Any ideology is not true for the simple sake of someone saying that it is true. You have to look into the argument and assess and analyze and look into the argument for you to tell. You can't just trust people into telling you that something is true or wrong. The same applies to Zakir Naik. Just because he's Zakir Naik, it doesn't mean that everything Zakir Naik is going to say is true, and it doesn't mean that everything someone small is going to say is going to be false. You have to assess the arguments, look into them, look at the evidence that each one of them is presenting, and then you decide. Although I have to say that other big scholars commented on that video from Zakir Naik, and they refuted him. So just look into both sides and see it for yourself which one is more compelling and which one you should trust.
True, true. And then there's what's called again the issues with what's called again with deviance. I brought Imam Tawhidi into it, who claims to be a Muslim scholar, but what's called again he ain't. Let's be realistic, he ain't. And like many people follow him, yeah. And I remember like sometimes like since I'm Nigerian, yeah. So I'm from Nigeria. Okay, me and Usman are from Nigeria, right, Usman?
Yep.
I think she's gone. Sorry, me from Nigeria. So what's called again? Imam Tawhidi made a video. What's called he made a few tweets criticizing the president Buhari, and due to what's called again, unfortunately Nigeria is very divided, especially north and south. Yeah, due to religious divide, cultural divide. Like it's just like that. Unfortunately, many people, especially who are Islamophobes and from the south, decided to side with him, and that led to what's called again, them using his arguments in order to further what's called again, use as an agenda to hate more on Islam and what's called again, on Muslims, which is really unfortunate. Because like I've seen his debate with Daniel Hikijadu, sorry, I hope I pronounced it Daniel, and like he got refuted so badly. And then I seen his what's called in discussions with other people such as what's called Harry Sultan, with David Wood, and with what's called again, there's this woman I forgot her name, but I remember. And then he kept on saying he said some stuff, yeah, which if from my point of view, and I say from most people's point of view, is kufar, and he still claims to be a Muslim, which is very unfortunate.
I believe, if I remember correctly, him being from Australia, and not so long ago, the Australian Committee of Imams, I think, they released some sort of statement of him, dubbing him as a fake imam, something like that. And I believe that even in Iran, the very same institution that he has claimed to have graduated from and took his degree, let's call it like that, ijaza of imam or whatever he is, they rebuked him, saying that he never graduated from them. I mean, if it was not evident already that he's just a fake. Okay, I don't want to be calling him names, but that is all he is. It is even, I mean, it's clear cut now. You can see it clear as the sun with all the evidence we have been presented with that he's just a con artist.
But like the far right or something like the Islamophobes, he just everything
Yeah,
he says
good
is
job.
just evil. I
Good
remember
job. Yeah,
one time he
it's
said
true.
what? Yeah, I remember. Sorry to cut you off. Sorry, continue.
No, no, no,
Well,
no.
looks like my
I
thought.
was just saying that you're right. I was just saying that. Because you mentioned the far
Arabic is
right, and you
yeah.
know what? That's so dead on point. Anywhere he goes, he is ready to appeal to the extreme views of the far right of that nation, just to find consensus among the people of that side. That's all he does.
The thing is, the funny thing is that he was. I remember his debate with any Egypt, and he called Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam a madman. And during that debate, he was just saying some really kuffar shit, kuffar stuff. Sorry, and then even Armin Navabi, yeah, who most people just see him as a joke or something like that, like as a joke, yeah. Even he was commenting saying, "Are you sure you're a Muslim?" Because he was just saying some random stuff,
Oh,
and it was just weird.
right. Yeah, definitely. I agree with you
And
100%.
like, and the thing, like what I said, remember what I was telling you about what's called in personality, yeah, in anxiety defense mechanism, he just started going into what's called a regression, where he just become immature and denial, where he was just denying it, something like that. And then sometimes he was trying to portray or some stuff on onto Daniel. You're just saying, no, you're that. You did that. And it was just weird, man. In order to, which I think it's called rational. Let me check. Rationalization, which is an attempt to prove or justify his actions, which is just so dumb, man. Like from my point of view, yeah. For example, like for me, when I see it, I know he's lying, and I know what's called everything he says is BS because I have the knowledge. But like the problem is when someone who doesn't have like enough imam, who doesn't have like as much imam as me, or doesn't have enough as not much knowledge as me, yeah, sees that he'd be like he gets doubts, and these are the things where it says like where we definitely need to refute them because they're huge, and like for example, we don't have to like constantly bombard them, but like one, two, three, or like a few videos is enough, and then people can see they're just lies or ignorance.
Yeah, I completely back you up on that. Sometimes people are like, no, we shouldn't give a platform to these people. My answer to that is that these people don't need you to give them a platform. They have a platform bigger than yours. So, yes, we do need to have refutations of their narratives out there. I find it funny, to be honest, when people tell me we don't need to give them a platform. I mean, like the only one not receiving a platform here is the counter arguments to this garbage that is reaching millions of people. So
And the
yeah,
thing is,
I agree
some
with you.
people just, for example, like for me at the moment, yeah, I'm studying this book, Sayyid Bukhari, sorry, Sayyid Imam Muslim, and it's a hadith book, yeah. But the problem is it's in Arabic, so I don't read Arabic because I'm not Arabic native. But I have a friend of mine, what's it called again, who translates the hadith and goes and finds what's it called again, like a commentary on it in Arabic and helps me out with it. But like some people don't have that, and some people don't have access to the knowledge because some of it's still in Arabic and not and like majority. I say nearly 50% of the Muslim population don't speak Arabic because they're not. The majority of them are located in West Africa and Southeast Asia, and like a small percentage. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but just from the top of my head, it's like that. And that's the problem because since they don't have access to knowledge, they'll be like, okay, but how do I know this is right or wrong? And the same thing that happened. I remember when I was living in Nigeria. Our books were in it. Our books we spoke Hausa, but our books, like Islamic books, majority of them were in Arabic, and I was confused. I was like, "What?" You know, like some people, like humans, forget. What if I forget, and I don't have time to go to teacher, or teacher doesn't have time to teach me? How am I going to gain knowledge from?
Wait, what is the question exactly?
Oh, sorry, I went on a tangent, didn't I? So my tangent is saying, like, well, you like how you said what's called again that, what's called that. Sometimes we shouldn't give these people platforms,
A
something like
platform, yeah.
that. Like, yeah, my argument was saying that sometimes we should, because due to people not having access to knowledge, which may lead them to either they become an apostate, or going down the Khawarij route.
All you should do is I see where you're going here, and I understand your preoccupation. What I'm saying is that all you gotta do. I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way, but I do believe that we should be assessing the material that we have at hand. Material coming from an Islamophobic or anti-Islam um, source. Okay, if the source at hand, let's say it's David Wood, and he's got like 500,000 followers on YouTube, and he's got an extremely wide reach. He's translating his videos in Arabic and pretty much every language on the planet. And yes, they got a project going on. It's called Apologetics Empire, and they decided, all these Christian missionaries, to start translating all these videos in pretty much every language you can think of. You can Google this or look it up. It's called Apologetics Empire. I don't think it's been launched. I'm not sure, but anyway, you got people with a lot of resources, millions of followers, and they're like disseminating all these materials, anti-Islamic material, worldwide. So what do you do? Like, it's unreal to think that we should not give them a platform. We are nobodies. I mean, I got like how much? Almost 6K subscribers on my channel. Compared to the audience David Wood has, I'm nobody. I'm not the one in the position to be giving platform to people. He's already got a platform. He gave it to me when he responded to my videos, and that is great because I was responding to him. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I do believe that in certain instances you shouldn't do that. You know, it's a necessary. Keep people away from these kind of arguments that you already know to be false, and you would just speak even then further doubts and all that. But if the situation at hand is one where your intellectual opponent has such a wide reach, then it is dutiful upon you to actually provide a response to that.
Yeah. And then sometimes, like, if you provide a response, you should provide sources as well, so that people can look it up and like gain more knowledge from it.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, like, when you refute someone, yeah, and like and for example, like, you refute someone, and then you tell them what's called again, this and this, and you said you got it from this and this. Sometimes, like, they don't put in the link in the description the sources where they get it from. But like, people, like, they don't know where to find the sources and read it for themselves as well.
Oh yeah, you know what? Sometimes I think I'm guilty of doing that, but I do display, like, when I reference something, I usually show it up. Like if I say take from Tafsir ibn Kathir, I just show the whole page in the video. But I'm not like in the description box. I don't say go to page this and that. So I apologize for that. It's just out of laziness. Some of my old videos, there's no description at all. I just paused it. But you're right. It's something that should be done, definitely.
Yeah. I like, especially in English, because most people don't speak Arabic or don't read Arabic, and sometimes the books are all in Arabic. Unfortunately, many of them aren't translated.
Oh
But
man,
then again,
this is
that shouldn't be
look.
that shouldn't be an excuse not to learn.
I apologize. I interrupted you here, but you
Oh,
prompted me.
sorry.
You prompted me for very good advice. Learn Arabic if you can. I know how to talk Arabic because of my ethnicity, but I have problems reading it. I'm not that bright when it comes to reading Arabic. But I gotta tell you something. The amount of material that there is in Arabic when it comes to refutations, let's not call it clarifying misconception, but when it comes to that, it's huge. It's huge. I promise you. You literally go to any book of religion, and you find answers like crazy. But in English, we do have the problem. Not everything is translated. I wanted to study some months ago the Aqidah of Imam Maturidi, and guess what? There's literally no much work done about that. There's a man called Dr. Ramon Harvey. He's a theologian, and he's writing a book about that this period. And the book is going to come out, I think, in July. It's a big deal, because there's not much done on this. So learn Arabic. That's a big advice I can give you.
Yeah, and that's used as an argument as well. I suppose used as an argument, says you don't even know our religion because it's in Arabic, and most of us don't speak Arabic. I've heard that argument a few times.
What is it?
No, like, do you like how it's in Arabic? Like you said, majority of things all these refutations are in Arabic. Because what's it called again? Like they're using like old arguments, yeah, that the older generation scholars have already refuted, yeah. But the thing is, like you said, it's in Arabic, and then like we don't
Yeah,
have, some people
yeah.
don't have access to it. So like I've heard an argument, some arguments, such as the Apostate Prophet David Wood and other ex-Muslims on Twitter saying that we don't even know our own stuff, our own script, our own religion, because majority of it is in Arabic, and majority of Muslims don't speak Arabic.
Definitely.
Well, I wouldn't say majority, but I'd say a good portion.
Uh, um, Before that, like when it comes to my experience, I can tell you when it comes to refuting most of the anti-Islam arguments coming from like a Quranic perspective, they just take an ayah and interpret it and tell you this is why Islam is wrong. Like every single time, all it takes me is just opening a commentary from an Islamic scholar. Usually, I go by Ibn Kathir, but you have no idea how many commentaries of the Quran you can find in Arabic, like Tabari and so on. Others that are really great and orthodox commentaries, from the first generations. And that's like great, good stuff, like really good stuff. And unfortunately, I only have one. If I knew how to read Arabic, I could do more with my dawah. But whatever. Farid Response is such a successful guy. Subhanallah. May Allah bless him and put
Guide
further
him, yeah.
barakah in what he does. I mean, and one of his
I mean,
strongest points, I believe, is that he's got access to the Arabic material.
yeah, when he speaks it. And the thing is, like, even though I have a friend of mine who helps me, like, sometimes he might be busy, sometimes he might want to do other stuff. So, like, I have to wait for him to let's go and have time, then we can do it together. So, like, it's not like, for example, like, if I could read Arabic, yeah, the book is like what's called in like, how do I say, like, to like 300 pages, yeah. Like, I'm only on like what's called, we only done like 40 hadiths, yeah. Like, I could have like finished, I could have done like read half of it, but since what's called again, I don't speak Arabic. It's what's called again. It's on hold. But Alhamdulillah, I have another book. It's an explanation of the last tenth of the Noble Quran, also with crucial matters in the life of Muslim, and it's done. The author is I don't know who the author is, but it's done by www.tafsir.info.com, and it's a really great book, and I'm reading it at the moment. Alhamdulillah, so it's really helpful.
Good job, mashallah. Good job with that. May barakallahu fiqh.
Seeking knowledge, man, is something that everyone should aspire to do.
Definitely. Seeking knowledge is great. It really is. I personally like it despite the fact that I'm a lazy person. But inshallah, we'll try to just improve towards that end and get more things done.
Inshallah. Anyway, I think we've gone long enough. I think we should wrap it up now. Or do you have any other thing to say?
No, I'm pretty satisfied. Thank you.
Pretty satisfied. Anyway, so since you're technically our first guest in 2021, I want to start things. This is the thing I want to ask every guest at the end of the podcast. What's your favorite quote and why?
What is my favorite one?
Quote, and why is it
Oh,
your favorite
quote.
quote?
What is my favorite quote? Uh, okay, there's one that I just read yesterday. I'm telling you that because I don't remember my favorite quote. It was probably by a Stoic, my favorite quote. Stoicism is a movement, a philosophical movement, all centered on living life in a good, appropriate manner. Okay, maybe I remember that. It was something along the lines of uh, pledge to yourself to live the best life you can from this moment on. And it was along these lines. I'm not saying perfectly, but it was all about pledging to yourself from this moment to be living on the best of your life, but not like the best of your life in terms of in a hedonistic way,
Desire,
just having fun and
like
pleasure,
desire.
but yeah, like living your life, um, let's say, in a excellent divine perspective. Let's say it
Like in
like that.
order
I'm
to help,
stating it in a
like in
bad
order to
way,
help
but
others,
what do you say?
like in order to help others and help the society.
Well, I believe that living the best of your life is really embodied in the purpose of life. the Islamic way. What is the purpose of your life? It's ibadah, you know. And in Islam, when you ask, why have I been created? Um, Allah tells you that the purpose of your life is ibadah, which in Arabic means worship. But it's not just about the physical worship. It's not about the ritual, you know. Ibadah is a kind of umbrella term under which there's a lot of meanings. Uh, Mainly, it is all about following the will of God, and the will of God, honoring God, is all about smiling to your parents, treating people right, doing your ritual prayers, taking care of the spiritual aspect of your life. It's all about growing into excellence. We do suffer in life. People really have bad lives sometimes. But the thing about
Yeah.
suffering is that it really helps you grow. You can really become uh, the best version of yourself by going through suffering. And that is God and Allah putting you through a test. It makes you suffer, but as He says in the Quran, God does not put you in a in a in a situation
Situation that you can handle.
exactly that you cannot overcome. He knows it that you got it in yourself to overcome that certain situation. So you may be suffering, but you will grow out of that as a better person, as a stronger person, and to grow into excellence, into spiritual excellence, into Islamic excellence, and honoring God. That is the purpose of your life. And by honoring God, you become truly, truly a great human being. That's I'm going off on a tangent, but just ideas.
Uh, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to our podcast. We really appreciate it. It was a really great podcast, if I do say so myself. And what's it called again? You have a channel, so for anyone who's interested, check out Full Metal Theist's channel, and hopefully, what's it called again? You probably subscribe, and inshallah, maybe one day you become Muslim if you're not. So, anything else to say, Usman?
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, I just want to say a few things. Like, yeah, first of all, thank you, thank you for coming onto the podcast. Thank you for being our first special guest. Scratch out the first guest of 2021. Thank you for being our first special guest of the podcast. And honestly, I just hope to like have you on my channel to have a conversation that might probably be based on something completely different, but that's something I look to have with you down the line this year.
You guys honor me, to be honest. It's very kind of you people, you know. I try to be as humble as I can. I know that I have nothing to gain out of being arrogant or like being too much over the clouds or something like that. So do come to my DMs if you have any kind of requests or any of that. I thank you for having me today here. May Allah reward you with better for the good things that you guys do in life. I sincerely thank you for that. And I apologize if I was too much boring or any of that throughout this podcast. So thank you and
Uh, no, bro, you weren't
jazakumullah
born,
khairan.
bro. I say if we learned a few words we never heard before.
No,
So
it's
you're
perfectly
far from
fine.
boring. Anyway,
You
Thank you.
weren't boring at all. You weren't boring at all. In fact, thinking about this right now, like it's always good to have different kind of people come in onto the podcast to see things from their perspective and find out the things they do in which we probably had no idea or had some idea, but never knew it
or like
on fully.
or distorted idea.
That's quite of an open-minded approach. I agree with you and I appreciate that.
Maybe. So
Also, Abdullahi,
let's see. So,
what do you think are the chances of probably this episode in particular getting like 100 views, or if I probably like 500 views? I know maybe unrealistic, but hey, he has almost
Allah.
6,000 subscribers, so anything is possible.
Whoa, so you're saying
I'm gonna
we're
make
just
sure
using him to get views?
to share this
We're
with
just
my
using
people. Inshallah, you get the
we're,
views.
we're leeching off full metal. Is that what you're trying to say, Usman?
Hey! I mean, when you told me he had 6,000, almost 6,000 subscribers, I had to start thinking like, okay. Put his
Like
name on it. Put his name on the title.
this could be
Put
our
his
make or
picture on.
break.
I'm
I'm
gonna
just
share it,
thinking,
inshallah.
No, but sincerely, like it's not about what's called again, like the views. It's mostly about the conversation that we have, because like we can have a conversation with someone who has like a million subscribers, but if the conversation is bad, like no one's going to watch it, to be honest. And I truly believe this podcast, the conversation is really nice, because like what's called again, we talked about some issues. We talked about, like, for example, issue of reputation and how we could do that, how to gain knowledge and all that stuff, and it was very interesting. And I'll say again, and I know you're going to be like, no, but thank you very much for coming on to our podcast, Full Metal. We really appreciate it, man.
Don't mention it. You're so welcome. Thank you, guys.
So we wrap it there. So thank you for watching, for listening. Subscribe if you want, share, like, do whatever. It's a free world, and we hope to see you guys next week. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.